and we're going to start class today by talking a little bit about Rosh Hashanah. And so I know we've been doing it a little bit in our pre-class, but if there's something I'd love for you to hear, if there was something specific or meaningful about Yontif services for you, always feedback about how we can improve, we can take, and but I really want to hear something specific. I love to hear that. And I know some of you are coming to Rosh Pinah tonight, and I'm looking forward to seeing those of you who will be there. But so Harold, why don't we do this for a little bit, just to,
Okay.
to bridge into
Sherry Dratfeld.
Hi. Good Yontif to everyone. First of all, I just want to say that I agree with Ira that I don't like to be distracted by the chat, but I also have to say I feel so supported that there is a chat and I know it's going on. There's something, so I like that. I was going to say about services that they were so deeply moving. On Rosh Hashanah day 1, we actually had dear friends over, and our godson was in town, Daniel Smith, and it was so meaningful. But the specific thing that I want to mention is in your drash showed, as somebody said, are always so inspiring. This year, when you talked about chaos, well, you always have maybe 6 threads and then they all tie in at the end. But you mentioned the chaos, and from the myth, the chaos into creation and unity and harmony. And during our after service luncheon, each one of us, there were 5 of us at the table, we spent the entire luncheon discussing this and how Ruth Bader Ginsburg wraps into, how everything wraps into it, religiously, politically, personally. So it was deeply, deeply meaningful that you raised this and brought it into our home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherry. I understand from artists, I'm not an artist, but from artists, and I love art, as everybody knows, all different kind of arts. Sometimes the greatest art comes from a place of chaos first. And that is such a reflection of the creation of the world. That's a very powerful model. I want to say about my many different themes that we weave together. Joyce once said to me many years ago, and Joyce and I have been working together a long time. She said, I'm like a jazz musician. My drashot are more like jazz than a classical composition. And I so deeply appreciate that, because that is how I think, that I have motifs that will play off of each other and then resolve, hopefully in a certain way. But throughout the drash, I'm trying to create different melodies based on the motifs, and there's different solos and different duets all happening inside the drash. So that's very much my intention. So I'm very moved, Sherry, that you see that or pick it up or respond to it. It's not a linear process. It's not a, it's not a legal brief that's moving from one argument to the other, which some drashot are, and some people can speak that way. It's just not what my hashkafa is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. I see Linda Solomon, unless your hand was up from last time.
No, I loved everything about this Rosh Hashanah. I felt so connected this year, even more so than last year.
Wow.
And I had made that commitment that regardless of what was going on in my house or elsewhere, that I was going to stay until the end of each service. And I did that, and it made a very big difference for me. It was so helpful, and your words are always so inspiring and comforting at the same time.
Thank you, Linda.
But I also want to say that I look forward to Unatana Tokef, second day every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I missed it this year because it went off, and I missed the whole center of the so I'm going to look for it.
I'm not sure it's up yet, but all the services, now that we have all this technology going on the CBST website, on the High Holy Days section, I'm not sure if they're up yet, and we will separate out all the dress show, because there were, besides me, we had some fantastic dress shows this
Yes.
year by Rabbi Cohen. Yael Werber, our new intern on the second evening, gave a fantastic drasha. And Rabbi Rapport on the second day. So and Dave Yadid will be doing a Shabbat Shuvah drash tomorrow night. Which,
And I thought what Ari had to say was very, very.
and Ari Mons.
Oh,
Wait,
Ari
no,
Munz.
that
Ari
was
here today.
Very special.
Yes, wasn't that fabulous? You know, Ari has just moved to New York City. So Ari's going to be working at Lab Shul, actually, but they say CBST is their spiritual community. That will be where they work, but they want very much for CBST. I don't know that Ari Mons is here today.
I don't see Ari. Randy Sarkoff.
I wanted to say that it was amazing. We participated in every service. We had our ups and downs with technology. We do better with YouTube on our smart TV than we do when we connect a laptop or a tablet. And at the second day of Rosh Hashanah, YouTube cut out at like 4 hours. Maybe that's all they gave you. But
we weren't actually broadcast. That's interesting because it goes out on Vimeo, but I guess.
oh,
through
I know
Vimeo it
that
went to YouTube.
we started
Ah.
on Vimeo, but then we
YouTube
kept
cut out-
having
Cut
then
out on
we-
second day?
it cut out about 4 hours. But I know you weren't supposed to go to YouTube, but once I found it on YouTube, it just works
Yeah.
better for us.
Okay,
We get
that's great.
higher definition,
Okay.
and we don't have the Wi-Fi issues because the smart TV is connected in. It's a
Tasha, can I just ask Tasha, can you make notes of all the issues people are having? Because we're doing a tech meeting later. So so if Tasha, if you don't mind taking these notes down, thank you, Tasha.
Yeah, it happened right before the priestly blessing on the second day. But luckily I went into the office, which I didn't clean as nicely, but we got in there as fast as we could and got the talit and got under the talit. So even with all the challenges, I just want to say, I felt spiritually connected to all of you on the screen, all of you that weren't on the screen, the different drashas by the different rabbis every day was fabulous. The videographers, they did a fabulous job. They really did.
Yeah.
Like you said, even through the technical difficulties with the audio, they
Yeah.
didn't stop and they just,
Yeah.
kept going. So
Yeah.
I just want to say, I know you hear a lot from people who are upset. I'm sitting here at work. Why can't I come to services? I don't want to go there. Yeah, I was upset and I had some despair, but you know what? You guys put 110% into it. We
Yeah.
saw that. We're appreciative.
Yeah.
And I am thankful to all of you for putting safety
Beautiful.
first and creating a beautiful high holiday experience. So toda rabba.
So much, Randy. Thank you.
Randy Axelrod.
Yeah, we've got a couple of Randys in this class.
Randy Axelrod, I see you there. We lost her just as we called on her. Well, let's go to Marcia then while we wait for Randy to come back. Marcia Melnick.
Okay, yeah, I'm unmuted. Yes, oh my God. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lots of dittos. The technology was small stuff and it's kind of symbolic in a way, metaphor for
Yes,
life.
I feel that way too.
So, okay. I felt that all the experience was so layered. As always, it's actually my favorite services
Yeah.
and the
Me too.
music and Joyce and Sam and you, Rabbi. Wow. And the
And how
technology-
fabulous was it this year that we could have Adria and Barbara there providing a
Yes,
whole
I mean,
other
it was
layer of
so
music.
rich and all the other participants in their smaller roles. But to be a little specific, Erev Rosh Hashanah, so your drash, I mean, Tovu Vavohu is
Yeah.
kind of a source place in terms of creativity.
Uh-huh.
I know that deeply in my own life in terms of that process of finding,
Yeah.
of searching and creating and opening and not knowing what will come.
Yeah.
Toward that end, and maybe not exactly, I would love you to do a tree of life, tree of knowledge. I found myself thinking about that a lot in Psalms class and doing a little research because this tree of knowledge piece really sort of sticks in my craw, you know? Okay, so I really want us to go deeper on that, and maybe you could do a separate class on that. That's an idea I throw out.
Yep.
Of course, Ayelet's Drash was just
Beautiful.
over the top, beautiful,
Yeah.
exquisite.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know her, but I didn't know about her cello, you know, and there's my
When
guitar.
she first came to CBST as an intern, she was playing cello as
Yeah,
she
yeah.
described, trying to learn something really new and expanding herself into a place of, you know, not her comfort zone as an intellectual.
Yeah, I love
you know,
that. I
yeah.
love that. And, you know, of course, that music of the cello and her as a human being are so resonant for me. You know, I go to that music all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't get enough of it, whether it's Yo-Yo Ma or
I
Pablo
know.
Casals or,
Yeah.
you know. So anyway,
Or
yeah,
Jacqueline Dupre. It was
or Jacqueline Dupre.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I guess it's the
Me
music that I
too,
go
me too,
to.
Marcia. I share that. I share that.
Yeah, and Yael Werber, I heard, I guess Shachri day 2. Day 1
Yes.
was a little mixed up because I was with my mom and, you know, we weren't as focused and we were traveling. Anyway, Lev Shalem, you know, the side notes, reading, I want to go back to. There's so many there that are so rich. I loved Yael Rapport's
Yeah.
Drash. It took, she goes in a place that I kind of, you know, wow, her delivery, her, you know, so everybody, all of you, what a gift, you know, it was really just a very rich service. A friend of mine who came to services, who doesn't normally come, wrote me, you know, just yesterday, wow, what you guys have created. I take no credit for anything, but, you know, she understood why we are so deeply connected to CBST and, you know, who you are in our lives.
Thank you so much, Marcia. You know, it's hard to explain, but I really do feel connected to people when I'm actually leading. There's a lot of stress involved with all the technology, except when I'm actually leading or actually speaking. And this year was hard because Rosh Hashanah was so early, and I know it's not on the Jewish calendar, but it was very difficult to have an adequate amount of time to work with our tech crew in advance because of that. And so as a result, there was a lot of stress on all of us. But once it starts, you know, and once we're doing it, it's so weird. I didn't anticipate this, how closely I feel to people. You know, and I can't physically see you, obviously, but I am looking right at you. I really feel you. I can't explain it. I cannot explain it. And, you know, I was so sad this year about not having a full sanctuary. And then we were going to have, you know, a 30%, we're going to have 50%, then we're going to have 30%, then we're going to have 20%, you know, and I do believe, you know, God gives us all different opportunities to stretch our spiritual muscles and to find gratitude even when things aren't perfect. And wow, this year was stretching them for me. All right,
So,
a few more comments, then we're going to do some Psalm 30.
Aura, wait, Randy Axelrod, I had recognized her and then she disappeared. Randy, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, thank you. I found all of the services moving. There were 2 places in particular that were just unbelievable to me. One of them was seeing you, Rabbi, and Sam coming in from outside, because when you're in the services, you don't see that. You know, you hear the voices from outside, but you only see you and Sam when you're there already. So watching you come in and, you know, singing the prayers, I mean, it was just so moving. I just couldn't get over it. And the second thing that Marcia just mentioned was Rabbi Cohen's drash that really resonated with me because, you know, personally, I like to stay in my comfort zone. And I'm trying new things that mostly have to do, with taking Psalms and going to an early minyan and doing Hebrew. And most of the time, or I shouldn't say most of the time, but a lot of the time, I feel kind of out of sorts and, am I ever going to learn this? And everybody knows more than me. And listening to her, I mean, it just inspired me so much. So
Beautiful.
it was just wonderful. So thank you.
All right, we're gonna cut, we have Aura, Judy, Susan, and Stephen, then we're gonna go to some offerings. So if you could be a little concise, Aura?
Okay, first of all, kudos and gratitude. I mean, it was amazing. The first night I was with 6 other people, and the other 2 days I was either by myself or with someone else. And my experience as in my life in watching the services was it's kind of like you're meditating. You're trying to focus on what's coming off the bima, and all this stuff whizzes by.
Right. Yep.
You keep trying to come back. Oh, look at that stuff. Oh, look at that. Oh, the mic is this and that, and you have to keep coming back. It's just like life. It's amazing.
Yep.
But thank you very
That's
much for
beautiful.
the experience.
Yep.
Judy?
So that's kind of new this year, right? To be able to watch in your home or somebody else's home, but with other people that so.
Judy Hollander?
Yeah, Rosh Hashanah, the first day of Rosh Hashanah, or second, it was the last time that I saw my father alive. So this period of time,
Oh,
it's bitter. I guess I don't even know what to say except I cry. So, it's not the worst thing, but I cry. And I really appreciate it on the Erev that your suggestion that we call Yolanda, I mean, I took it as it was like I thought it was funny. I thought it was clever. I thought if I had an extra $1,000, I'd call Yolanda right then. And, but I wanted to thank you because it got me out of that space to a place that I could be someplace else, a better place for a while anyway.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you,
Stein?
Judy.
I thought it was a beautiful service, moving. What Marcia Melnick and Randy Axelrod said, I agree with 100%, but to be concise, I think one thing that you really achieved was an intimacy. And you said that you didn't feel the presence of the cameras as the rabbi, but as a person watching it, I felt that you weren't putting on a show, that you weren't performing, but that you were really davening. And I don't want to do Lashon Hara about other synagogues, but I did look at some other synagogues and it felt like a performance, but there was an intimacy to, I don't know how you achieved it. Maybe it's the rapport that you have with the other clergy, Joyce and Sam, but there was that intimacy that I really was very meaningful.
Thank you, Susan. I want to say something about that because it's one of the things that the internship always, those who are graduates of our internship and the process of being an intern at CBST is often a piece of it, which is a big part of what I teach is that if the rabbi is not praying, how can they possibly expect the congregation to take seriously what's happening?
Mhm.
For me, I am praying. Okay, it's not 100% of the time, just like with what Aura describes, I get distracted. I have to keep pulling myself back too. I mean, it's human, right? But my goal is that experience of what you see me doing is prayer. It's
Yeah.
I can't lead. I mean, how could I can't lead somebody else in prayer if it's not meaningful to me. It's meaningful to me. Again, like Aura said, I get distracted. I have a lot of different things juggling sometimes, not 100% of the time. But that is the goal.
Mhm.
My goal in teaching the interns who work at CBST is that I want them to learn how to pray leading services. It's difficult. It's not, it's not a natural, you have to develop certain muscles to be able to do it. But all of the interns and the assistant and associate rabbis who have worked for me talk about that as a part of what the training is at CBST. It's not technically how to know which pages or how to organize a service. That you need to do also, believe me. Irving Kuberberg always said, you have to know how to set up the chairs. You know what I mean? You have to do that stuff of it. But if you're not praying yourself, if you don't believe deeply in these words and the power of this prayer experience, so believe me, I believe it. I believe in it. I'd never say a word from the Bima that I don't myself personally believe.
And that's obvious.
And I tell you the stuff that I'm not sure about also. But anyway, so yeah. So I thank you for that, Susan. I'm glad you feel that.
Stephen Deem?
Yes, I'll be brief because Rabbi Kleinbaum just explained what I was going to explain to her. I said that we feel the intimacy because you're real.
Uh-huh.
And you communicate to the camera, you know the person behind the camera, and you're talking to them and you're involved in your experience. And frankly, I've watched your growth from the very beginning of this process, and you caught it really quickly. How it's for real. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to add two quick things. One is, as you know, I was there on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, and it is like, if any of you ever watch Sports Night on TV, it's like one of those shows that shows a show being put on. It is an order of magnitude different from anything else that we do. They are there and they're like, okay, go to tape, camera 1, camera 2. Can we run this? What are we doing? It is a huge undertaking behind the scenes to make it look so seamless through the screen. And the clergy is there, and it is an unbelievable team effort. Number two, and nobody else has said this, Rosh Hashanah services this year were completely different for me, having taken the Psalms class, because it was like the year that I really learned Hebrew, and I could pick up a prayer book and understand, read the Hebrew and say, oh my gosh, this is what this is, because there were the Psalms, the complete Psalms that we've read and studied. There were verses from many of the Psalms that we've studied where I never even realized before that that was a verse from Psalm. And I have to say that when we got to Unatana Tokef and the image of the shepherd and the staff and the sheep,
I was thinking that too, Harold. That
oh my God, it was like I put my finger in an electric socket or something connected. I had never thought of that. I'm like, well, this is Psalm 23 brought to life in a different way. And even though it doesn't say this part of Unatana Tokef, I have internalized the images and the words of Psalms to such an extent that I could say, oh yes, that's Psalm language there. That's a Psalm image. So powerful that I never could have gotten without this intensive year and a half of study of Psalms.
Beautiful. And I want to say, having Adria is in our class, of course, and I think Adria is here on the screen today, having her there and Barbara. But if you noticed, Adria did harmonies to Sam's singing for most of the service, providing kind of that second voice. I mean, we'll get to Adria will do Kol Nidre, of course, Kol Nidre, but that provided such richness. And I felt at least this year was a little different from last year, even though we didn't have a sanctuary full of people as we had hoped. But having Adria there for me personally transformed it in a really important way, or added or textured it. I don't know if Adria, you want to say at all what it was like for you to be there? Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. I just very quickly. I basically, like so many of my colleagues, have spent almost the past 18 months recording, with the groups that we play with, recording for streaming, recording for live streaming. Everything in front of cameras, everything with microphones everywhere. And the grace and elegance and the ease, even though there's a very high level of awareness and, and I would also use the word pressure, if I may, Rabbi. Mm-hmm. To get everything just the way you want to get it in the sanctuary over these past services is nothing like sitting and recording in a concert hall or in a large recording studio. And I have to say, I have had such good fortune to work with so many wonderful, concert artists and soloists, but the way the Rabbi Kleinbaum and our clergy and Joyce and members of the board who were present and that video crew, the way everything was handled was simply extraordinary. I have to say, it was just extraordinary. I did really very little, and I know how tired I was at the end of each service. I don't know how the clergy got through it. I don't know how Joyce got through it. There's all of this technical hubbub going on around us all during the services. And I know that from my friends and my family who watch, you don't have any sense of it while you're watching on the screen, and you're drawn into a very intimate, very personal prayer experience and observance of holiday experience. So I am very grateful to have been included. And I'm kind of dazed. I'm still dazed. I mean, I barely could drag myself out of bed this morning. And I don't know how you did it, Rabbi, but and considering how little I did, but it's really amazing. And it's not that we don't have an awareness that you're all there, because that's paramount. That's always paramount. And in the rabbi's remarks to all of us who were there to be a part of the service, that is the message that we get, to never lose sight of what we're doing and why we're doing it and for whom we are, davening or playing the viola or playing the piano or singing or speaking. It's really extraordinary. So, Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. Thank you, Adria. And so Adria will play Kol Nidre, and in addition, she'll continue playing along. And you understand that a lot of it is not music in front of Adria, although some of it is, right? Adria, you're watching Joyce, you know some of it is, it's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, I take a lot of Dramamine before.
Yeah. So you understand that
Right.
Barbara and Adria are watching the keyboard. Barbara's percussion is entirely based on Joyce's left hand. There's no music in front of them, except when Adria will do something like Kol Nidre, she's doing a, and so Adria has some of the music that Joyce has, right? You have some of her music, but
Yeah, and I have to apologize. I have to apologize for.
We have viola music for Adria to be playing. She is there creating this music so that we have this really textured, beautiful experience.
Well, no, I mean, Rabbi, I've written out a bunch of stuff so that I don't drown immediately, but there were plenty of wrong notes. I needed a vacuum cleaner afterwards to vacuum them up, but
Well, at CBST, we believe in the spirituality of imperfection. So the
There you
wrong
go.
notes are actually the right notes.
Thank God for that.
So let's just say what we're going to be doing now and for these next few days. So we're going to start doing we don't have a lot of time today, but we're going to dig into Psalm 30. And did folks hear Psalm 30 in my drash? And in the, we played the Morning into Dancing. We're going to do some personal offerings. On next week, in honor of Yom Kippur, we have 2 days of class because I have to be at CBST on Wednesday by noon. So it's just impossible for me to do the Psalms class. So either we could do a Chavruta if you wanted to, but on Monday, it's going to be Chavruta of Psalm 51, which is the Yom Kippur Psalm. There is a Psalm, remember last year we studied Psalm 8, or we did Psalm 8 because we had gotten up to Psalm 8. And then we used many of your offerings for Rosh Hashanah. Psalm 8, and we read Psalm 8 during the liturgy. Psalm 8 is the Psalm for Rosh Hashanah. It's the Psalm of creation, which is why creation, remember Tohu Vavohu, the creation of the Briat HaOlam is the creation of the world. That is Rosh Hashanah. Psalm 51 is Yom Kippur's Psalm. So next week, we're going to study that in Chavruta on Monday, and then I'm going to teach it on Tuesday. And it has, by the way, and I say this to the classical music folks in the room, it has many very famous choral settings, and I can't pronounce the Latin. And I think for Christians, it's considered Psalm 50, but it's a super famous choral. Many different famous composers have put it to, I've forgotten you have to get the first couple of names. All those Psalms, remember, for classical music and for choral settings for the church, they use the first couple of words in Latin. And if you look, anyway, that's a wonderful part of Psalm 51, but it's a wonderful, wonderful Psalm. It's in the liturgy for Yom Kippur. So next week, we're going to pause Psalm 30 we're going to do Psalm 51 on Monday and Tuesday. Then the following week, when we get back together, we'll finish up the offerings for 30. After we finish 30, we're going to jump to 150, and we're going to end our time in September with 150, and we'll talk about the future. And Rabbi Moskowitz is going to come to one of our classes or a time at the end of the class to talk about what he'll be teaching in this time slot, starting, I think it'll be October 12th. But all that details will come to you in time.
And we do have Julia Lupton with her Shakespeare lecture.
Yes, we
We'll
have
be
to
sitting
schedule
in.
that.
We
Let's
should be
schedule
sitting
that.
in.
Julia, we need to schedule that. Harold, can
You
you?
know, I've been back and forth.
Okay, great.
Right. All right. So poor Lori Krotman has been holding on. She asked to go first, which she thought was going to be at 10. Lori, are you still here? Can you read your Psalm?
Yes, I am here. I'm on my way to Seattle as soon as the
Okay.
call ends.
All right.
So,
So
um,
here we are.
and I just have to say before I read it, Harold had mentioned about a month ago that he thought Psalm 30 was going to be our last Psalm. So I read it and I just started sobbing, and I wrote this. I didn't even look back. It just flowed for me. I thought, oh, it's schmaltzy. It's soppy, but it's how I felt. And there you go. And I was inspired actually by the superscription, a song for the
Beautiful.
dedication of the house. So
Beautiful.
this is the house. So here we go.
Hmm.
Song to the house is CBST. I love you for lifting up my spirits during this time of distress. I love you for helping me heal inside and out before, during, and after my surgery. I love you for allowing me to sink into the pit when my sister died and then come back up. Though I often wept at night, I rose in the morning to a supportive community. Your steady presence helped me regain my balance when I lost my footing. Oh, sorry. You answered my calls, my emails, my outreaches, and touched my heart in ways I never imagined a house could. You gave me a safe place to bemoan my descent into sadness and lament my losses. You helped me regain perspective when I thought all was lost. My whole being rejoices in my relationship with you and yearns for ongoing connections so I can continue to dance in your presence. Sigh.
Wow. Wow, Lori, this is so spectacular. Oh, and I love the way you used imagery that you've learned from the Psalms itself. That's fantastic. So deeply moving.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for this, Lori.
Thank you.
Well, and safe travels to Seattle.
Will you
Okay.
join us for Yom Kippur from Seattle?
Of course, of course.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Lori. This is beautiful. Please travel safely. God
Thank you.
bless you.
All right. Sherry Dratfield.
No words in search of Psalm 30. When I was dying, I did not know it. In the evening, there might be crying, but joy comes in the morning. You turn my mourning into a dance, have opened my sackcloth and given me joy. Is it any wonder words fail me? I sit in silence. I see, but cannot hear the gulls greeting and morning wind outside blowing roses of Sharon into dance.
Speak to us. Tell us about writing this, Sherry. It's gorgeous.
Well, I think the psalmist captured, I don't know, everything that could possibly be captured with those two verses.
Yeah.
For me, it's searching, always searching. And so the poem begins with expressions of not knowing. I was dying, I didn't know it. And there was a time a couple of years ago when I was dying and I didn't know it. I didn't die, you may have noticed. And then not being able to express oneself, words fail me, not being able to achieve what the psalmist achieves. And then in the search, not being able to hear. I sit in silence, and there's silence in the psalm as well. I see, but I cannot hear. There's a divider. I'm inside, it's outside. That idea of step outside, although awash with shame. And not being able to feel the morning wind is outside blowing. But there are roses of Sharon. The divine is blowing out, is being blown outside and dancing. So hopefully it ends with hope at the end.
Beautiful, just spectacular. And again, to use these words, I'm so moved that they've become part of all of our vocabulary. This concept of evening might be crying, joy comes in the morning, and to combine these things. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you. Thank you. And just in a poem, you usually have an epigraph. You usually put the words that you're quoting, or if there is a quote at the beginning, but it was so significant. I embedded it as part of the poem. Maybe I can take a little credit for it.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Dean?
Yeah, can you pull it up so we can, yeah, it needs to go a little higher. Yeah, there you go. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you very much. So there's the pit. I think we're all really aware that 1 out of 3 Americans right now are experiencing environmental ravages. So I think the pit in its literalness as well as its figurativeness is real for many of us in many different ways. And then I wanted this to be, so I wanted the Lamentations turning into joy in the morning and dancing. So our famed crowd is receiving the water droplets, which feel in this situation like a whole different reality. So it's that awareness of that turning of the page. So anyway, that's.
Dean, spectacular. And the size of this, is this the same?
It's 8 inches by 10 inches long. So these are studies for the larger pieces. I can't keep up with the class. So from Psalm 20 to Psalm 30, I had to go small, but it's good. I'm really focusing in on the speaker of the song because so.
I find these just so powerful, Dean. Really so powerful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so.
Michael Goldstein?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. A free translation. I proclaim the good because the good has raised me from the pit and not let adversaries have happiness. I beckoned to the good and goodness healed me. Goodness raised my being up from hell and prevented me from bottoming out. Sing to the good, congregants. Be aware of moments of anger in eternal goodness, crying in darkness and singing joy in the light of day. When successful, I believed I shall not ever be shaken. Goodness stood as a strength. But then goodness hid and I was frightened. Then I pleaded and beseeched to the good for a blessing. What is gained by bottoming out? Can my remains praise the good and declare your goodness? Hear me and forgive me, help me. Goodness has changed my mourning into my dance. Goodness has opened my sackcloth, armed me and given me joy. Therefore, may praise sing a prayer to goodness and counter the silence of the pit. I express gratitude to the good for eternity.
Wow, Michael, you are carrying this through these Psalms. You're creating quite a body of work. Do you want to talk to us a little bit?
Well, that's the whole point. I wrote this on September 2nd, and I really, pardon me, don't have a clear memory of how it worked, but I always sit with the dictionary, and I believe I used Levy, and I may have used Bernstein as well. But
Is there a particular phrase in here that speaks to you most powerfully? Is there something there?
well, goodness has changed my morning into my dance.
Uh-huh.
The whole
Beautiful.
idea of focusing on the good
Yeah,
gets me through everything.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you for appreciating it.
Yes. I don't think we have time for another one for today, Harold, right?
Okay, well, if you wanted to go a little longer, we could. Otherwise, I think what I would do is distribute all of the written copies now, because if we're going to Psalm 51 on Monday, it will give people time to read these on their own. And then
And we'll get back to them after Yom Kippur.
we'll get back to them after Yom Kippur. How does that, are the authors okay with distributing work that hasn't been read yet? Just so that we get it out there and then we can go, yeah, okay, I'm hearing nods. All right. So what is today? Today is Thursday. So that
Today
means
is Thursday, Rosh Pinah. Those are the major donors of our community and major supporters have been invited tonight. If you want to be one and you're not yet one, Tasha can put the link in there, but we have a gathering every year between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And Rabbi Moskowitz and I are going to teach something together tonight. And then tomorrow night is services, Friday night services that Joyce, Sam, and I think are leading, and David Deed is giving the drash. We'll be in the sanctuary. And then Shabbat morning, I think this week is Liberal Minyan, Harold, is that correct?
I've lost track. I don't really
I've
know.
lost track. There'll be a service at 9:30.
Yes, and the Torah readers from Jack's class.
Yes, that's right. That's
are
right. I'll be
reading.
there. Yep. All the Torah reader graduates from the laning class will be reading from the Torah on Shabbat morning. So we're very proud of them. So last spring, Jack taught on Zoom, a whole new class of readers. By the way, for those of you who are students of Jack Greenberg, Simchat Torah this year, because we can't do it in the way we had hoped, but we've invited Jack Greenberg. This is his 40th year of teaching laning at CBST. And to honor him, we've asked him to talk about laning, what it means to him, what laning means to him. He's our master laner. And then he's going to teach some laning for the whole community, but he'll talk about what it means to him, how he learned what all about laning and laning is the Yiddish word for reading. So it means the person who reads from the Torah on Shabbat or a Yom Tov, a holiday morning. And Jack is, an incredible, not only teacher, and he's the one I can call on. Some of you remember there have been Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur mornings where somebody doesn't show up. I turn to Jack in the congregation. I say, Jack, you're on. He walks up and he can read any section in the Torah almost without preparation at this stage. So anyway, so he will be something very, so on Simchat Torah, we're going to be celebrating him, and he's going to talk about the art and what laning is from his very deep and moving perspective. And we're going to honor him for the 40 years. We're going to try and put together a list of all of his students at CBST, which includes students of his students at this stage. He's now taught many of the teachers at CBST how to lane. So many of the people, we're going to try and put together a whole thing about laning itself and what that means. And so it's going to be fantastic. Anyway, so there's Havdalah Saturday night. And then Monday, we're going to be back in class to do Psalm 51. And then Yom Kippur is Wednesday evening. So for those who have not yet registered, please do. It's the same link as the one you use for Rosh Hashanah. So you don't have to sign up again. Is that right, Tosh? Am I right about that? I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. I hope I'm right about that.
That is correct.
That is correct. And we're putting together a couple of Zoom classes for Yom Kippur afternoon. They'll be fairly short, but for those who want, you don't have to. But we'll have a couple of things. This is one of the things that we haven't yet dealt with. But because it's, we'll just set up a Zoom link and we'll announce it. I don't think people need to know in advance. Nobody needs to sign up in advance. You'll get the Zoom link. And if you want to come to one of the classes between Musaf and Mincha, you're welcome to.
All right. thank you so much, Rabbi.
Thank
Early
you,
Shabbat
everybody.
Shalom,
Gemar Chatima Tova is what we say between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. You could also always say Shana Tova, but Gemar Chatima Tova means may the sealing, what we talk about, were inscribed on Rosh Hashanah, and then the book is sealed on Yom Kippur. So we say, may the sealing of the book be for the good. I'll just write that in the chat, Gemar. Whoops. Oh, somebody just wrote it. Thank you. But if you can't, if it's too many chaz in there, Gemar Chatima Tova, you could always say Shana Tova is totally appropriate. So
Yeah,
the room
well-
will stay open for a little bit there, folks. I have to go to something else, but much
Okay, you
love.
go, Rabbi. I'm going to stay with the room. And I just want to say there were a few people in chat who said that this is their last class. I know that school
Oh.
is starting and things. So Sumir said it was her class. Margot Kate said maybe her last class.
We'll miss you. We'll miss you, but blessings to you on your journey. And I'm sure we'll see you at other things at CBST.
All right, Rabbi. Take care.
Bye-bye, everybody. Shabbat shalom.